Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we'll be going over UFC Fight Night, Hill versus Rountree, taking place at the Baku Crystal Hall in Baku, Azerbaijan. First time ever in Azerbaijan. 3 fighters will be representing Azerbaijan. And you know, June has been a weird month for UFC cards, I'll say the least. The last card I didn't even do a review and breakdown of because of how bad it was. The Usman win was cool, but I'm hoping for an explosive card here. I'm hoping for a fun one, so I hope you guys enjoy this preview. Let's hop right into it. If you are new to the channel, we start off at the main event and work our way all the way back to the prelims. So if you are hoping for a Hamdi Abdulwahab versus Muhammad Usman to start this video, unfortunately that's not how we're starting. We'll start with Jamal Hill, Khalil Rountree. We'll end with that, and that's how every video works. So starting off with the main event, the odds for this fight are just about dead even. Another odd I want to bring up before getting into any stats, who I think is going to win, minus 350, that this fight does not go the distance. I mean, I'm not saying we're guaranteed to finish because then we're going to get the worst fight ever, but this fight should end in a knockout. This fight should be a classic, either a quick knockout, a war. Something's going to be fun in this fight. Let's talk about the fighters. Jamal Hill is coming off back-to-back knockout losses. One earlier to Alex Pereira, and then one most recently to Yuri Prochazka. 4-fight win streak before this, including wins over Glover Teixeira in 2023. Thiago Santos, Johnny Walker when he was still the shit. He also beat OSP in 2020. Jamal Hill is not one of my favorite UFC fighters. Not because he taunts, not because, I don't know what it is exactly. Especially in the fight versus Yuri, I was really turned off about him. And the fight Pereira also, not my favorite outing from him. Not even saying his performance, just how he carried himself. Let's talk about the fucking war horse, Khalil Rountree. His last loss was also to Alex Pereira. Here's the difference between Jamal Hill and Khalil Rountree's losses. Jamal Hill got knocked out pretty quick. Left without too many scars, knocked out, of course, but Khalil Rountree has one of the coolest pictures. I'll pull it up for you, hopefully. One of the coolest pictures in UFC history as the loser. Just covered in blood, his eyes all messed up. Khalil Rountree took years off of his life in that fight. That's what it kind of rose him to superstardom. It gave him a bigger name than he had before, which is great for him. He had such an honorable and heartful performance against Botan. But geez, that was tough to watch. I wanted that fight to end way before it did. Not saying that the ref did a bad job or anything, but that was just hard to watch. That was one of the one times I was wincing. I'm very good at watching UFC and loving violence in it and such. I was wincing. I wanted that fight to stop. I wanted a towel to be thrown. Khalil Rountree looked like Apollo Creed versus Ivan Drago. It was a rough outing. A great performance. Years off of his life, no doubt. Before that, he was on a 5-fight win streak. He has 8 knockouts in the UFC alone. Let's get into a little bit of the tail of the tape. Here's a big difference. Jamal Hill lands 7 significant strikes per minute. That is nearly double Khalil Rountree's output. Hill's also the much taller competitor. Not much, but Hill's the taller competitor. 6'4" in comparison to 6'1". They're both about 35, 34. Rountree's older at 35. Jamal Hill 34. Hill has the reach advantage, 2.5 inches, a 79-inch reach. Hill is also the more accurate of the two fighters, and there's not going to be a single takedown this fight. We saw it with the Pereira matchup with a lot of people. I feel like 2 or 3 fights in a row, everyone said they weren't going to throw a takedown, and most of them didn't. Rountree owned up to that. And who knows, maybe he will throw a takedown. Maybe he cares about his health this time. But Rountree is favored to win by knockout in this fight. And here's my prediction of the fight. And obviously, of course, that's how the fight's going to end if it's going to win by knockout. But this is really how I see the fight going. Either Rountree is going to get knocked out early, his chin really took a beating from Pereira. He's never going to be the same fighter. And if you're disagreeing with that possibility, you didn't watch that fight. It was grueling to watch Khalil Rountree. He didn't even get knocked out, really. He got put into the dirt. So I think it's either going to be Rountree gets knocked out earlier than expected, not too much damage taken, or Hill just gets his ass kicked overtime. My official prediction for this fight, Khalil Rountree by knockout. Hopping right into the co-main, Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes at lightweight. Bahamondes is actually the favorite going into this fight, which I think is kind of interesting at minus 130. It's a very, very close fight. Besides Jamal Hill and Khalil Rountree, this is the closest fight on the card. We're going to talk about, I brought up before, 3 fighters from Azerbaijan. This is the last fighter in Fiziev. Let's just say, if Bahamondes wins, and especially if this is a lackluster card and the hometown favorites don't do well, Bahamondes, especially if he wins by like a vicious knockout or something, is going to be followed out by a sea of boos. I mean, this is the first time we're coming to Azerbaijan. And I don't think Bahamondes would want it any other way. I mean, that's great. Fiziev is on a 2-year, 3-fight losing streak. Lost a war to Gaethje in their rematch by unanimous decision. Still put up his own. Before that, lost to Gamrot by knockout. Gaethje by decision, of course, before that as well. I don't care who you are. It's the same idea as Khalil Rountree versus Pereira. 2 decisions against Justin Gaethje cannot be good for your health. It can't be. It's science. It's a wrecking ball hitting you. He last fought in March of 2025 against Gaethje, like I said. Bahamondes riding a hype train after retiring Jalen Turner in his last win in March. That was just odd. I remember reporting on that on my other account. That was very weird. 3-fight win streak for Ignacio. Of course, the retirement of Turner by submission. And then, of course, Torres and Giagos by knockout, all in round 1. All 3 finishes in the last 3 have been in round 1. Bahamondes, in my opinion, should be a much bigger favorite. I understand Fiziev is a monster. This is going to be Bahamondes' biggest test, in my opinion. I think a lot of people's opinions. But Bahamondes, let's get into this tale of the tape. 6'3" compared to 5'8". Bahamondes is a monster for the division. He's very big for the lightweight division. But we're talking 7 inches. And it's not always the decision maker there. But 7-inch height advantage. Okay, let's get into the rest of it. Bahamondes is 5 years younger than Fiziev. 32 compared to 27. Bahamondes has a 4-inch reach advantage. And also, just like Jamal Hill, in a much more limited time, of course, he's 27 years old, only a couple fights in the UFC, Bahamondes lands 7 significant strikes per minute. He lands more than Jamal Hill. To be fair, Fiziev hits 54% of his strikes and also has an insane body attack. I think this one's going to be a bloody one. I think, unlike last week, we're going to get a good card full of wars, full of battles, people hugging in the middle of the octagon after getting into absolute dog fights. Bahamondes by decision. I think this hype train keeps rolling. I think Bahamondes is going to be something in the UFC, in my opinion. He's one of my favorite up-and-coming fighters. Bahamondes by decision. The weirdest fight on the main card, Curtis Blaydes versus Rizvan Kuniev, a heavyweight. Blaydes is a minus 250 favorite, and it should be bigger. It should be bigger. I'll explain. This fight is minus 170 not to go the distance. Blaydes plus 135 by knockout. And Kuniev plus 600 by decision. The rest are even bigger long shots. And Blaydes, to be fair, hasn't fought since his loss to Aspinall. I understand that a little bit. I understand why the odds are like that a little bit. But once we get into Kuniev, we're talking about Blaydes, who the chin is questionable. Beyond questionable. The chin's in jeopardy. Especially at heavyweight. But he also just beat Almeida in 2024, if that counts. The last time Blaydes went to decision, I want to point this out, was September 25th, 2021. And the last time Kuniev went to decision was a month before the pandemic started in February of 2020. A little bit about Kuniev. Was on the Dana White Contender Series in Season 5 in 2021. He was also in the PFL for a fight. He beat Renan Ferreira, the same guy Ngannou beat, I believe. And the Dana White Contender Series Season 8. Why is Rizvan Kuniev getting his UFC debut on the main card of a pay-per-view when he's not... If he was from Azerbaijan, I get it a little bit. I wouldn't even question it if he was from the country. But how is he fighting against Curtis Blades? He lost to Aspinall? We're acting like he lost to Mick Parkin. Like, this is. I think Blades is going to win by annihilation. I think it's going to be a first-round knockout. I don't think it's a flatline KO. I think it's a TKO. I think the ref has to get in the way of this one. I think Curtis Blades is still the shit. I love Curtis Blades. I don't think Rizvan has a chance as much as his first name's cool. Yeah, Blades by KO. Tofik Musiev, hope I'm saying that right, versus Mike Tebek Oral Bay. And you may say, why am I not just looking up how to say this name? Because I don't want to. Look at it. Look at it. You can see it typed out there. Look at the screen right now if you're just listening to this. No, I'm not saying that name. Musiev plus 35. Oral B, which I'll be calling him from now on, minus 160. Musiev is the second fighter on the card from Azerbaijan. We'll get into the first fighter in the next fight. They're all on the main card, which is great. I'm a big fan of that. But Musiev, UFC debut. He's a UFC debutant. In his 22 wins in his career before the UFC, 18 are by knockout. Now, again, we've seen monsters come into the UFC, especially lately, and just shrivel up. 18 wins by knockout. I cannot state that enough. 18 wins by knockout in 22 wins. Orbe's coming off a split decision loss to Rebecki in October of 2024. Before that, he's on an 8-fight win streak, 2-1 in the UFC. This is who Musiev is paired up against. Both are 5'10". Tofik is 8 years older. It's one of the biggest age, if not the biggest age discrepancy on the card. Orbe, 74-inch reach compared to Musiev's 72. There's not really much more stats for Musiev. It depends on which promotion you're from. Sometimes they carry over, sometimes they don't. This one would have been a much deeper dive in me making an Excel spreadsheet. I'm sorry if that's what you were expecting. If you're a big Tofik Musiev fan, I apologize. Orbe is a good striker as well as an amazing wrestler. But the odds are way too close. I got a weird feeling about this one. Tofik, is the wild card of this entire card. No one's really talking about this fight because I'm not shocked by that. But Tofik by knockout, or Musiev by knockout is my prediction. 18 knockouts. That's the only reason I'm saying that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. 18 knockouts. Could be a decision by Orobe wrestling. 18 knockouts. Musiev by knockout for his 19th and first in the UFC. Next up, we got Nazim Sadikov versus Nicholas Mota at lightweight. Sadikov is a huge favorite, one of the biggest favorites on this card, minus 500. And Nazim is actually the first fighter from Azerbaijan on the card, so he's kicking it off. It's the second fight of the main card. Nazim, first fighter from Azerbaijan on the card. Sadikov's fifth UFC fight. He is 4-0-1 before that. Just beat Bonfim via TKO, doctor stoppage in February, if you remember that one. 9 out of Nazim's 10 wins are all finishes. 9 out of 10. 90% finish rate when he wins. 2-fight win streak for his opponent, Nicholas Mota. His last one in November of 2024. Sadikov's a little bit taller. Sadikov is a little bit younger. Mota has the reach advantage by an inch, 70-inch reach. I would say Sadikov is the better striker and wrestler as well. I think they wanted to give, especially the first fighter from Azerbaijan, not an easy fight, but they wanted to kick off this card. They wanted to make this worth the fans' while. Not even that. They could have nobody from the card there and they would still have sold out and been in great shape. I don't think a lot of people are coming for Sadikov in particular, but we'll see by the warm welcome from the crowd or not. Sadikov warms the back of the crowd up via knockout. Knocks Mota out. That's how I have it. In the second fight on the main card, we're getting into the first fight on the main card next. And like I said, to kick off the main card, Muhammad Naimov versus Bogdan Grad at featherweight. Naimov is a medium favorite, minus 275, Grad plus 225. Naimov is coming off a unanimous decision win against Con Olfi. I remember that one, unfortunately. 4-1 in the UFC, 75% finish rate when he wins. Bogdan is from the Dana White Contender Series back in 2024. He also won his UFC debut against Lucas Alexander by KO. There's going to be a couple guys from the Dana White Contender Series on this card. You'll notice this is the only one on the main card. Naimov is a little bit taller by an inch, 5'9" compared to 5'8". Bogdan Grad is younger at 29 compared to Naimov's 30. This is a close fight when you look at him on paper with no stats. But then you look at the stats. Grad lands at a double the striking output, and Grad's also the better wrestler. I don't understand the odds on this one. I think this is, like, a lot of these fights I called the favorite. It's okay. That happens. Biggest upset I'm predicting on this card is Grad by decision. Easy one there. I think Grad goes 16-2, starts his UFC career off with a bang, with a couple of wins. There we go. That's my prediction for and also the end of the main card. Now I'll be hopping into the prelims. To end off the prelims and technically start our prelims because we go in reverse order, I'm going to try and say this name. Siekyong Ko versus Oban Elliott. Ko is a big underdog going into this fight. Another Dana White Contender Series fighter. Won his last fight on the Contender Series via decision. This is his debut. He's also on a current 4-fight win streak with 6 knockouts in his career. And Oban Elliott, also from the Dana White Contender Series, just the year before, in 2023, I believe, undefeated in the UFC. 2 decisions before his win by knockout most recently. Elliott is 2 inches taller. Elliott is 4 years younger at 27. Elliott has a 1-inch reach advantage. Elliott is the better striker. Both are pretty good wrestlers. This fight, honestly, I'm predicting to stay on the feet. It's a toss-up how Elliott wins. The odds are so weird and spread out on this one. To be safe, I'm going Oban Elliott by decision to end off the prelims. Ishmael Nordi versus Junyoung Park at middleweight. This is another close fight odds-wise in this one and in my opinion. Ishmael is coming off a win against Bruno Silva in his UFC debut by unanimous decision in October. Not a nobody to get your UFC debut against. 12 knockouts before the UFC, 6 submissions, just a absolute finishing machine. His nickname is the Austrian Wonder Boy. There was a couple on this card. This is my second favorite on the card. We'll be getting into my favorite in a second. Park is his opponent. Park is 5-1 in his last 6. Just beat Brad Tavares by split decision. Park's nickname is the Iron Turtle. The Iron Turtle. That's my favorite nickname of this card. I'm not going to say the UFC. There's probably a cooler one I'm just not thinking of. But the Iron Turtle. That is awesome. Both are 5'10". Nordiv is 6 years younger than Park, which I don't think will make a big difference in this fight. Nordiv 28, Park 34. Nordiv has a 74-inch reach compared to Park's 73-inch reach. Park does land more significant strikes per minute. Nordiv does land at a 63.99% clip. And both the wrestlers, this is another one I can see either staying on the feet or just being a grappling match. But Park is better with the submissions, I guess. Park is... let's get into odds here. I like talking about odds a lot for each fight. If you're not a big odds guy, you're not going to like my channel. Park is plus 145 by decision. Then he's plus 450 by submission. I'm going with a big one here. If you want to tail it, you can. Park by decision, let's make it unanimous decision as well. I'm calling that one out. Unanimous decision for Junyoung Park. The next fight on the prelims, Daria Zalesnyakova versus Melissa Mullins at women's bantamweight. Daria is plus 210, Mullins minus 260. The over 2.5 rounds is plus 105 in this one. Daria's coming off a loss to Aline Perez by submission in September. Only her third fight now coming in Baku. Looking to stay in the UFC with a current 1-1 record. This is a little bit make or break for her in the UFC. Daria has 5 knockouts before the UFC. Interesting. Daria's also fucking Russian. There's a couple Russian fighters on this card, but Daria, I got this weird feeling. Melissa Mullins coming off a win against the lady in our next fight, Claudia Segula, with a round 2 knockout. She also beat Claudia's opponent in the next fight, Alexieva. What? 2-1 in the UFC, last fought November of 2024 against Segula, like I said. There are not many fight odds available for this fight. It's the only fight that doesn't have the full odds out at the moment. Daria 5'9" compared to Mullins 5'7". Daria is 4 years younger at 29. They have the same 68-inch reach. They land at similar rates. Mullins lands a little bit more accurately and is also the better wrestler. Daria, I'm sorry. No upset here. Give me Mullins by decision to go 8-1 to really start her UFC career. 3-1 in the UFC. It's a good start for her. Mullins by decision. Talked about both of these women a second ago. Arina Alexieva versus Claudia Saigula. Also at bantamweight. Alexieva is the big favorite here, minus 290. Arina is also from Russia, but here's the thing. She is Sambo trained. Good God. Debuted with a submission win, most recently lost by decision. 7 pro fights for a 34-year-old. That's not there's not a crazy amount of options for women, especially in the sport. 1 Bellator fight. I don't know. This is just an odd one. Claudia Saigula is from Poland. I am also Polish. Claudia Saigula is from Poland. She lost by knockout in her UFC debut, though. This is her second fight. They're both 5'8". Arina is 34 compared to Claudia's 26 years old. Like I said, the other fight was an 8-year discrepancy, this one as well. Claudia has a better reach, 69 inches compared to 67 inches. Alexieva is the better striker and submission artist. And for the first time, honestly, since UFC 316, I haven't predicted a submission. Arina Alexieva by submission over Claudia Saigula. Sorry, Saigula. Sambo's just too good. The second to last and technically second fight on the card, Tagir Ulanbekov versus Azamat Maksum at flyweight. One of the biggest favorites on the card here is Tagir, minus 525. Here's a picture of Tagir. Tagir is potentially the last man you'd want to see across from you in the octagon. My God. 3-fight win streak for Tagir, 2 submissions in 2022 and 2023. Last fight in January, unanimous decision win over Clayton Carpenter. Maksum is coming off a loss to Charles Johnson by unanimous decision. This is only his 3rd UFC fight. They're both 5'7". Tagir's 33 compared to Azamat's 30 years of age. They have the same 70-inch reach. Very similar striking outputs. The thing is, Tagir hits double his shots. Tagir is also probably the better wrestler, but Azat is still a good wrestler. They're both good submission. They're both good, but I would give Tagir the edge. Possibly a submission win here by Tagir. I just predicted a submission in the last one. That's why I'm hesitant to predict 2 submissions back-to-back. I just don't see it being likely. That's just odds to me. That's just, I could predict each fight as its own fight. When have you seen 2 submissions back-to-back like that recently? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to be 2 submissions, but I am betting and saying Tagir Ulanbekov by decision. And now for the start of the prelims and the last fight of this video. We hyped it up in the beginning for all those Hamdi, Abdul Wahab, and Muhammad Usman fans. Here it is. Here's the breakdown. Let's go over odds. First is a heavyweight fight, of course. Abdul Wahab, minus 175. Usman, plus 145. This is Hamdi's 3rd UFC fight. Last fought and won a split decision over Jamal Pogues in February. His debut was a no contest. His other 5 wins before that in his career are all knockouts. Muhammad Usman is on a 2-fight losing streak, both by unanimous decision. He last fought in July of 2024 against Thomas Peterson. He's also the Ultimate Fighter Season 30 winner, but who cares? Both are 6'2". Hamdi is 260 compared to Muhammad Usman's 236. A big weight discrepancy, 24 pounds there. That happens only really at heavyweight, of course, but huge weight discrepancy. Usman is 36 years old compared to Hamdi's 32. Usman does have the better reach, a 7-inch reach advantage, 79 inches compared to 72. They both throw the same amount of strikes, but Hamdi lands a lot more. Hamdi's also the better wrestler. Do I see Hamdi Abdul Wahab knock him out? No, I don't. Sorry. I see the kickoff to the prelims being a 3-round heavyweight decision by Hamdi Abdul Wahab. I'll even go unanimous decision over Usman because I don't think he's going to do well. I think the odds are a little close on this one, but Vegas is always right. I've never, ever once been right against Vegas, ever, ever, ever. But like I said, Hamdi Abdulwahab by decision. Thank you guys so much for checking out my preview of UFC Fight Night, Hill versus Rountree, UFC Baku, whatever you want to call it, UFC Azerbaijan. The first time ever in Azerbaijan. I like to also report on those because that's cool. Next up, we have UFC 317, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. I cannot wait for this card. I cannot wait to make a prediction video for this card. I can't wait to do a breakdown with Ilia as the new champion. You got my prediction already. You got the beginning of next week's video. But this was a more fun one to make than last week. I will say that. Last week, I thought we could get something out of nothing from a nothing card, but we did not. But this is going to be a fun card. I'm putting it into the universe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel. Check out my Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that for shorts. They're also here. I tweet a lot during the fight, so you can check that out. Everyone have a good and safe weekend. Have a good one, guys.